Welcome back to RNG Small Ball. Today we are doing a full breakdown of the 2026 NBA playoffs, covering every first round series, the storylines that define them, and then getting into the second round, which is already well underway with some genuinely surprising results. If you enjoy the show, make sure to subscribe and leave a rating wherever you're listening. It genuinely helps the podcast grow, and there's a lot more content coming as we push deeper into the postseason. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's start in the East. Detroit was the 1 seed, and they got a series out of Orlando that nobody really expected to go to 7 games. The Magic kept it competitive throughout. Their defense was suffocating as usual, and they actually took 3 of the first 6, including a win on the road in Detroit. But when it came to Game 7, the Pistons just had too much. They pulled away and won it 116-94, and honestly, it was not as close as that scoreline even suggests by the end. Orlando will be fine going forward. They're a pretty hard team to put away, and they know it, but Detroit moves on, and that's what matters. Now the series everyone is going to be talking about for a while, Boston versus Philly. The Celtics were a 2 seed, Philly was a 7, and somehow the Sixers won this series in 7 games. Boston had a 3-2 lead going into Game 6, looked like they were about to close it out, and then completely fell apart. Philly won Game 6 at home, then went into Boston and won Game 7 on the road. Tyrese Maxey was the reason. 30 points, 61% shooting, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists. That is a ridiculous stat line for a Game 7 on the road. Embiid had 34-12 to go with it. Meanwhile, Boston shot 39.8% from the field and went 49 attempts from 3 at only 26.5%. That's volume shooting that just did not work out. Jaylen Brown had 33 points, but he could not do it alone. This is a real problem for Boston going into the offseason. You don't lose a series like that as a 2 seed without some serious questions being asked. New York and Atlanta was never really a series. The Knicks handled the Hawks in 6, and after Game 3 it was pretty much over. They closed it out with an 140-89 win in Game 6, which is just an embarrassing scoreline to be on the wrong side of. Brunson was steady the whole way through, the depth showed up, and Atlanta just didn't have the personnel to keep up with New York over a full series. Cleveland and Toronto was the tightest one in the East. These two went back and forth the whole way. Toronto won Game 6 at home to keep it alive, and then Cleveland came back and took Game 7 at home, 114-102. Donovan Mitchell was Cleveland's best player across the series. He's been carrying that team when it matters. They drew the 1 seed Detroit in the second round, and Game 1 did not go their way, dropping it 101-111. The fatigue from 7 games against Toronto is real, and Mitchell and the Cavs are going to need to dig deep if they want to make this a series. Over in the West, OKC did what everyone expected them to do. They swept Phoenix. 4 games, done. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was in a completely different class. Suns had no answer for him, and honestly it looked like a first-round series between a championship contender and a team that wasn't supposed to be there. Every team left in the West took notice of that sweep. San Antonio took care of Portland in 5 games. Wembanyama was a problem on both ends of the entire series. Portland did make it interesting in spots. Game 4 was closer than it probably should have been, but over 5 games the talent gap was just too wide. Wembanyama in the playoffs is something to watch. He's still young and he's already doing things that make you wonder how good he's eventually going to be. The real story in the West first round was Minnesota taking out Denver. The Nuggets were a 3 seed, and they had Jokic. They had the playoff experience, and Minnesota just wore them down. 6 games, and it wasn't particularly comfortable for Denver down the stretch. Minnesota's defense was relentless, and Jokic never really got into a rhythm for long enough to take over the series. That's a bad sign for where Denver is right now. The Lakers and Houston went 6. It was sloppy in stretches. Houston won Game 5 to put LA in a must-win situation. And then the Lakers came out and blew them out 98-78 in Game 6 to close it. LA got through, but they did not look dominant doing it, and that's going to matter a lot going forward. Alright, so the second round is underway, and there's already a lot to react to. New York and Philly. The Knicks are up 2-0, and it is not looking great for the Sixers. Game 1 was a statement. Brunson dropped 35 on 67% shooting, and the Knicks shot over 63% as a team. That's almost unreal for a playoff game. Embiid had a rough one, shooting just 27.3% and finishing at -24 in the box plus minus. You could see the fatigue from that Boston series catching up to Philly. They did tighten it up in Game 2 though, and made it 108-102, which is more respectable. They're still down 0-2, and now they have to win Games 3 and 4 at home in Philadelphia just to stay alive. It's hard to see a path back for Philadelphia from here. Brunson controlling the pace of this series is a real problem for them. Detroit and Cleveland. The Pistons won Game 1 111-101, and this feels like a matchup that could get uncomfortable for Cleveland fast. The Cavs just came out of a draining 7-game series over Toronto, and now they've got to play the #1 seed at home in Game 2. Detroit is deep, they defend well, and their home crowd has been a factor all season. Cleveland will fight, as they always do, but the energy deficit coming out of the first round is real. OKC and the Lakers is looking one-sided already. The Thunder won Game 1 108-90, and heading into Game 2 they're projected to win at around 88%. LA couldn't beat Houston comfortably, and OKC is a completely different level of opponent. Shea against this Lakers defense is a mismatch that's hard to scheme around. Unless Luka returns fast or something changes quickly, this one could be short. The series worth keeping a close eye on is San Antonio and Minnesota. Game 1 went to the Wolves on the road, 104-102, tight game, and it looked like Minnesota might actually have the momentum. Then the Spurs came out in Game 2 and won 133-95. That's a 38-point swing in one game, which tells you how volatile this matchup is. Wembanyama against Minnesota's defense, Anthony Edwards trying to physically impose himself against San Antonio's length. This is the most interesting chess match left in the bracket. The Spurs are favored, but Minnesota just knocked out Jokic and Denver, so you're not counting them out either. Stepping back and looking at what the first round told us, a few things stand out. Depth 1. Teams that were relying on a short rotation got exposed by the time the series went long. Boston and Denver are both examples of that. And the West is genuinely loaded at the top. OKC looked like a different tier. San Antonio is healthy with Wembanyama playing well, and even the Lakers, who have question marks, have enough to steal a game on any given night. For the East, the projection is New York over Detroit and the conference finals. The Knicks are the hottest team left standing on that side of the bracket, and Philadelphia and Cleveland don't look equipped enough to slow runs in depth. Detroit is a legitimate test, they're built for this, and they play physical basketball. But New York right now is hard to stop. In the West, OKC and San Antonio feels like this is where it's headed. Thunder are playing at a level that no one in the West has matched yet. If the Spurs get past Minnesota, that conference finals matchup, Wembanyama versus Shea, will be must-watch basketball. But until someone actually beats OKC 4 times, they have to be the pick to come out of the West. So that's what we've got so far in the 2026 playoffs. There's a lot of basketball still to be played, and games 2, 3, and 4 across multiple series are coming up this week. So things could look very different by the next episode. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it, and if you've been enjoying the show, dropping a rating really does help. More soon. Thanks for listening.